Hey folks, it's that time of year for wattles. It's August now, and I might take a little break from eucalypts and just get a lot more wattles in. I've got a eucalyptus workshop next week at Dubbo, so hopefully I'll get a few more eucalypts done. But just a lot of wattles coming into flower at the moment, and I'll keep trying to make the videos as best I can. This is Acacia longifolia, probably a real simple one for a lot of people. Very common in the Sydney area, the Sydney Golden Wattle. It's got a massive geographic range, all up and down the coast of New South Wales. It gets into the tablelands a little bit. It's pretty much through about the southern half of Victoria, although it tends to have a very strong coastal distribution there along the southern part of the Victorian state along the coast. And it gets into South Australia along the coast, I think, to about Streaky Bay. It looks like that's the main range. It's all over Tasmania, and it goes up into Queensland, I think mainly to about the Gympie area, and it's mainly coastal, though it gets like inland, just on the tablelands a little bit. It's certainly one I see in the Southern Highlands, Mittagong, where I'm always working, that area, so it gets into there as well. But it probably doesn't go a lot further west than that. It is a wattle that can really strongly naturalise outside its natural range. It's got no problem sort of creating seedlings and probably getting well and truly outside its natural range, road verges, highway verges, those sort of habitats. It's a very bad weed in Western Australia. In Western Australia, they hate it, and I've seen some weed control efforts to try and get rid of it, so it shouldn't be over there, but it's become very extensive in Western Australia. The phyllodes, they're sort of easily recognisable. It's just the shape and the width of them in Sydney. There's not too many others you can sort of confuse it with. You might think it looks a bit like Acacia longifolia, though they're a bigger plant, a much bigger tree, and it also looks a bit like one called Acacia obtusifolia. They're the two I would link it to at the moment. Now, just to add on, Acacia longifolia has the flowers in globular heads, and you can see this guy has the flowers in the spikes. It's putting out these rod-like spikes. So that's one thing to help you out with it. If you've got to wait for flowers, well, they'll put them out in rod-like spikes. That other plant, Acacia obtusifolia, that flowers in summer, and this guy flowers in winter, spring. So like Acacia decurrens paramatensis, it's a bit of a lazy default, but this guy will flower in winter, well and truly before winter's over, and obtusifolia tends to flower in summer. And sometimes you can go on the presence of the buds for the differences. Back to the phyllodes. Acacia obtusifolia, they're a bit more sort of plasticky, leathery. They've got sort of more prominent venation. And when you zoom in, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do this with the phone, they've got these resinous glands, these red resinous glands on the margin of the phylode. You can see here they're sort of even and green. Well, on obtusifolia, you can get all these red glands on the margin. And I only had a really good look at them with a hand lens the other day. So check that out on obtusifolia. But if you've got buds on longifolia in autumn or in early winter, you're probably going to be right for longifolia. If you look at obtusifolia and it's got buds in like September, October, well, that's one of the good distinctions for obtusifolia longifolia. But do look for the glands on the leaves. The leaves do look a little bit different, I think, too. But I've had plenty of plots recently in the Wingecarribee, the Southern Highlands, where I had both. I had both plants in a plot, and that got really interesting. I think even in places like Mount Alexandra in Mittagong, you can see both of them growing together. They'll grow intermingled side by side, and you'll clearly see that some of them have flowers and some of them don't. Some of them have buds and some of them don't. So it's interesting there. The phyllodes can be to about 20 centimetres long, and I think they can be about 3 centimetres wide. They're quite sort of soft feeling, but they're maybe a little bit leathery as well. You can feel the veins on some of them, just when you rub your hands up and down. There's meant to be one gland at the base. So there's one gland at the base of the phyllodes, and I don't know if I'll do it justice. I just don't think a phone will be good enough. I can see it with the naked eye. I can see the gland, and you can probably start to see it there too. It's just there. Can I zoom in? Yeah, there it is there. Where the margin sort of pinches in on the phylode on the left, just sort of trying to get it in the center of screen. That's the gland there pinching in the margin of the phylode. Yeah, now you can see it really clearly. That sort of light green bulge, that's the gland. And they're saying it's always down near the base of the phylode. So it's one of the wattles that puts the flowers in spikes. And there's not too many in Sydney, at least, that do this, that put the flowers in the spikes. Now, obtusifolia will do it as well. And so we've got this sand dune form of Acacia longifolia, and some people call that Acacia sopherae. But in New South Wales, it's treated as a subspecies of longifolia. So sopherae is a subspecies, but you know, some people just call it Acacia sopherae. It's a sand dune longifolia. It tends to have fatter phyllodes, which maybe aren't quite as long, and they tend to be sort of prostrate along the sand dunes. But they can get to 3 meters tall as well, but they tend to be sort of prostrate on the sand dunes, and they're quite recognizable when you're in that habitat. These guys, they can get to 5-6 meters tall, maybe taller, something like 8 meters. I keep thinking about this one I saw last year at Lucas Heights, just in an open degraded area. It was about 8 meters by 5 meters, the whole plant, and it just had the most stunning abundance of inflorescences. It's like someone had to take cuttings from it and sort of market it as a Acacia longifolia abundance or something like that. It just was absolutely covered in flowers. I stood there looking at it for about 5 minutes and just watching all the bees come in and out of it. It was just incredible. I can't get access to that land now, but maybe I can track it down again one day. But we've got the flowers in spikes. And if you think they sort of resemble a bottle brush spike, like a callistemon spike, well, you wouldn't be too far wrong. Look, they've got nothing to do with each other in botanical speak. Callistemon and acacia, they're not related. But these acacias do a very good job of trying to put out a bottle brush-like spike. I mean, that's pretty much what a Myrtaceae callistemon does. It's got all these staminate flowers, these 5 morous staminate flowers, and it puts them along a spike. And the wattles are just doing it on a sort of miniature version. So it's amazing the similarities there. I'm not saying the flower structure is completely the same, but it almost is. It's got a 5 morous perianth. It's got a whorl of stamens and andrecium. And then it's got one female part coming out. And you can just see those female parts, those white filament, well, I shouldn't call them filaments because that gets applied to stamens, but those white threads coming out beyond the anthers that are on top of my thumbnail there. You can see 3 of them in the middle of the screen. That's the female parts or the carpels extending out beyond the stamens. So they do a very good job of doing a bottle brush-like spike. They're about 4 centimetres long, and they're about 1 centimetre wide or so. Yeah, maybe a bit less. But they're well and truly in full cry now, and today's the 5th of August, so they're doing a pretty good job. This one's just on underneath a power line easement. We're just on the edge of some bushland here at Bonnet Bay Public School. Bonnet Bay, Tudor Road, that's a good place to see them, but all over the Lucas Heights area, I've seen them lately. Towards Heathcote Road there, and yeah, they're having a pretty good season. That's just, this one here is just a 2 metre tall one on the edge of a track. These spikes, they might contain something like, yeah, maybe something like 50 flowers, or getting up to 50 flowers. And just as I stand here, there's European honeybees coming in and out. So they do provide good resource for honeybees, that's for sure. Just going to check this other one over here and maybe just finish off with a big one that's further up the road. We're just walking into this bushland here. Here's a nice one. They're just really common, easy to spot. especially around August. Just going to smell the flowers. Yeah, I'm not getting much there. There's a little bit of a scent. It's got a bit of a smell to it. It's a little bit sort of laundry smelling, I guess. I can't really put a better take on it, but pretty spectacular whether they got a scent or not. But some of these wattles are strongly scented. But just beautiful how it packs the spikes in there. This spike here, the upper flowers are ripe, and I'll just get that in focus, and the lower flowers haven't quite come out yet. So you can see that there. There's your top flowers opening, and the bottom ones are still coming on. So it's just, instead of putting them in globular heads, it just puts them in spikes, and they can be in the leaf axils. You can see there, they're just coming out of the Phyllode axils there. So Acacia longifolia, it's a pretty easy one. Just remember Acacia obtusifolia. We do get that in Sutherland Shire, but it tends to be sort of on the outer sort of bushland parts, more in the Royal and maybe Heathcote. And remember Acacia sopherae or longifolia sopherae if you're on your sand dunes. I'll just finish off with a big one that I've seen last year. Just going to finish off with this one here. This is what Acacia longifolia can do. And even this doesn't do them justice really, like that one I spoke about. This one's about, 4 metres, 4 to 5 metres by a couple of metres wide. But I can see honeybees all over it again. And just an example of what they can do in their prime. It's in a bit of a shady area here. This is the general trunk appearance. This chunk would be about 7-8 centimetres thick for a tree that tall. Can sort of shake the whole thing. You can see just some of the leaves, they get a bit longer and narrower in some cases. There is another species in Sydney called Acacia longissima, which I don't see very often. It's got the flowers in spikes as well, I'm pretty sure. That gets really long, thin leaves, really, really long and thin. But some of these leaves, they're just getting really on the thin side, pretty long, hitting that 20 centimetre mark. We've got a bit of dieback here in the bottom, and this is a bit like Acacia decurrens in that it'll get borers and then it will fall over. It's already got some trunk damage here. So longifolia is another one of those opportunists, live fast, die young a lot of the time, and it'll sort of happily or unhappily fall over when it's finally done. But it does get borers. It's got some trunk damage there. And it gets these galls as well. It tends to sometimes get these galls on it, which are, I think, caused by a wasp or some sort of parasitic wasp or something like that, the galls. So you probably wouldn't be looking at the trunk to identify it, but just wanted to finish off with a bigger one here. Beautiful rods or spikes there. These ones are getting a fair bit longer. They're probably up to 5-6 centimetres compared to that last shrub I was at. But I do think an easy one for you to get familiar with if you're just learning your plants. Just maybe before you identify one, just have a good look around and see how many there are. And if you can get a variety of heights and eventually you see the flowers in spikes, you have a good look at the leaf variation. You should be able to pin it down as longifolia compared to obtusifolia or some of those other ones.